Hey, everybody. We're back here again, locked in. We've been talking Oregon and Penn State, and it's a heck of a ball game. We've got a video up about the Oregon offense. Y'all to check out because it's interesting, and there's something big happening up there. We'll see. But there's also something of a conundrum I think that's happening. Um, that whiteout environment at Penn State is nuts,
Mm.
and they came expecting to see their team walk out on top of the national stage, and they had every opportunity to. Good ball game. I mean, you can't you can't say that it wasn't. But the one thing I think you can say is James Franklin still seems to stink pretty badly against those top teams. Uh, we've seen him play them well, but we've also seen him lose a lot of ball games against top teams. And if there was one there to be won, I think it was there Saturday night, and it just didn't happen. So at this point, we know college football folks are crazy. That's understood. We know that there are people out there that would somehow gladly pool together 60, 70 million to buy out a coach. With that being said, do you think that it would be a good idea for somebody to do something as crazy as saying, there's the door, James Franklin, at the end of this year? We want to win a national championship.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. So we're at a negative 217 point differential for James Franklin versus top teams. And I don't know if he's won, but maybe a handful, if that,
So if you want
against these
me
teams.
if you want me to go into some of the stats about James Franklin's record against top teams, I'll go down a list of just four, and then Chance just alluded to the point differential, which I think is probably the most shocking slash telling, even more so than the record maybe. But as far as the record goes, James Franklin is 4-21 against top 10 opponents. 4-21 against ranked opponents, so just anywhere in the top 25, he is 16-29. So if you did the quick math on that, he is 12-8 versus ranked opponents, and he's 4-21 when you add the top. So sorry, he's 12-8 against under the top 10. So teams that are ranked under the top 10, but in the top 10, that's where it gets skewed. He goes 4-21. And in the top five matchups, he is 1-16.
I mean, I don't know how you can win a national championship and not be one of the top five teams in college football. And I mean, that's one of the things. At the end of the year, you're going to have to play one of the top five teams, and he's
And
proven
I tell
line
you
out and everything can't do it.
what it kind of reminds me of, and and you may disagree. And Chance, you well, yeah, I mean, hell, both of y'all would have been really young, but um, I think, and I was talking about this team with someone just the other day, the Craig Krenzel, Maurice Claret, Ohio State team that won the national championship under Jim Tressel.
Yep.
I do not think there is any way that football team wins a national championship in a playoff. I think that if you could get there, like a team like Penn State, I think if you could get there in a one and done BCS national championship game and all the chips fall
Mm-hmm.
perfectly, I think they got a shot. I think if they go in and they have to win multiple games in the playoff, I wouldn't bet on them. Now, I'd like to see them win one. I like Penn State, but I wouldn't bet on them. Now, with that being said, let's go on a little further. No doubt there's probably people in Pennsylvania, and I don't know anything about what people in Pennsylvania are saying, but I'm just theorizing. and basing a lot of this off of, what you see on your social media and, on national sports media. There's a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth. But I don't think that there's any way in this world that you could justify firing him. I mean, I think Penn State could do a lot worse than what they are.
Yeah.
What y'all say?
I mean, I don't know the last time they had a quarterback worth anything at all in NIL evaluation. I don't know if they'd make more than $250,000 at another school. I don't think they have any receivers. I don't think they recruit the best on offense or really have any good offensive schemes. It's all, hey, let's just go to the 1A high school down the road and take their playbook and let's install it for our one guy that we have on offense.
That ain't that bad, surely.
Yeah, chances me a little bit hyperbolic right there.
It was that bad last year with Tyler Warren. It was that bad last year.
So I want to go into his head coaching record because I think that there needs to be more of a case built for him. Obviously, we started being negative with what his record is against top teams, and even like the last little addendum to that. There are plenty of other coaches who have been places for a long time that have very similar looking records.
I'll say, dude won at Vandy as well.
So let's
not forget this. He won at Vandy before Vandy was Vandy now.
The negative aspect of this is there are other coaches that have terrible records and teams that have terrible records against top opponents, but those teams they are not top-ranked teams themselves. The thing that is always so stark about Penn State is we're talking about a top 25 team almost every year, a top 10 team on most years lately, and their record is still that bad. So we're not talking about who you want to say, like an old Mizzou, or I'll throw in like a Mississippi State. Mississippi State versus the top 10 teams in the SEC probably has a very similar looking record, but Mississippi State is not a considered very good football team year to year. Penn State is.
They are not the Penn State.
So that is what there's just a hump that can't be, gotten over apparently. But even with that, you have to give some amount of credit for what Franklin has done. His first year as head coach at Vanderbilt in 2011, he was 6-7. They got to a bowl game. And then right after that, he gets them to 2 9-4 seasons back to back. And in 2012, he was 5-3 in conference at Vandy, who was bottom of the barrel in the SEC every single year. And then they are competitive. They're not winning anything grand, but they're competitive and they win 2 bowl games. So then he gets the head coaching job at Penn State. First year goes 7-6, 6-6 regular season, wins a bowl game. Okay, first year there, whatever. Second year, he is 7-5 in the regular season. He gets much better in conference play. And then they lose their bowl game. But then in 2016, you start to see the turnaround with the guys that he wants in his system. So they go from 7-6 to 11-3, 8-1 in the Big Ten. They lose in the Rose Bowl. They finish that season ranked 7th in the AP. And then 2017, 11-2, a win in the Fiesta Bowl. They rank number 8. 2018, 9-4. They lost in the Citrus Bowl. They're ranked 17th. 2019, another 11-2 season. They end up finishing 9th with a win in the Cotton Bowl. And again, like these losses against these big teams, they're happening against 2 teams, Ohio State, Michigan.
Yes.
And then you have the COVID year, which is a disaster. I mean, I think everybody remembered, or everybody who paid attention remembers how that was for them. They dropped everything. They went 4-5. And the year after, they took a step up, I guess, in record, but a step back from the norm. They were 7-6. And then after that, you have 3 straight seasons with at least 10 wins, 11-2 with a win in the Rose Bowl, 10-3 a loss in the Peach Bowl, and then last year 13-3 with 2 wins in the CFP. So I mean, he does win. He wins a whole lot. He just doesn't win the big one, which is what this conversation always boils down to.
Well, let me throw out my honest opinion here. Tennessee, not going to pick them to beat Georgia till they do it. Georgia, not going to pick them to beat Alabama until they do it. We was about to fire Ryan Day last year because he couldn't win the big one. We was about to fire Kirby Smart after he lost in the national championship to Alabama because he couldn't win the big one.
Yep.
I think it's a little too reactionary as college football fans. Definitely shouldn't fire the guy. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and go on to FanDuel and put $1,000 on him to win a top 5 matchup. I think we just got to be realistic and say, hey, probably not going to happen. Probably not going to expect it to happen, but it could. And I mean, eventually it probably will, but let's just not go and put $1,000 worth of our investment into that.
But to tell you something too, going back, this is digging back into, once again, back into my school days, who I think that he is a lot like, or what the scenario is a lot like. If you've heard this one, I don't know. Rev, you probably know of him. He is kind of like a John Cooper in Navy blue and white. John Cooper was a dang good coach at Ohio State. They won a lot of football games, but by God, it didn't make a difference what happened when Michigan came around. It was like, it was rare that they beat Michigan. 2-8-1, I think, in Cooper's 11 years at Ohio State. I think it's what it was.
That won't do.
And I remember watching that last one. That was, they had a fine team that year. That was the year I think that they lost to Saban at Michigan State. Quite a good team Ohio State had. But what eventually happened, and I think that's what would have to happen at Penn State. There was a falling off after that team. I guess what was it? Was that the 98-99 year, I think. Am I right in that, Rev?
98 was they were 11-1. They won the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah. And there was a falling off. And what I think had happened, if I remember correctly, because I used to keep up with Ohio State a lot, they just didn't have the players after that class left. They just didn't quite have what they had in the past. And bobbled, a good bit that next year, and they fired him, at the end of the season. I think that's what it would have to take, or what it would take for them to make a move at Penn State. I think Franklin's good for them. I think that, he fits. The environment's good, but I don't see them winning a national championship. I just don't. And I'm the game that I'm thinking of, and it's been a while since I watched it, but I watched it multiple times. It was the year when I don't know the calendar year. It's like with me, knowing people's names. I'm no good with remembering exact stuff. The year that Justin Fields was the quarterback for Ohio State, they had a really good run. Been back a few years ago now.
I think it was 2019 or 2020. No, it was 2019. It was 2019 when Joe Burrow won it.
Well, Penn State played them a close game, whichever year that was.
Yeah, 2019.
And man, I would go. Absolutely, just go to my grave saying Penn State was the better coach team. They were the better football team than Ohio State that year, but they did not, and they still do not have the athletes that can compete with a team like that. And that's what got them. And that was the thing that I thought was so disappointing about watching that game over and over again, is I think that like every nut and bolt and screw was turned perfectly for Penn State to do what they needed to do. But Ohio State had about 3 or 4 athletes that they just simply could not, that they were going to get theirs, and they did. So like with that being said, I think you have to roll with James Franklin. And unless you get a bunch of people with a country fortune in the NIL market, I don't see them getting over the hump.
So I will add a little bit more hope into this for Penn Staters. They are collecting a country fortune. They are they are one of, if not the most active school across all sports in NIL. They are absolutely throwing money into their athletics program, and not just football. All over the place. And they are going out and getting a whole lot of talent. Now, I think the big thing this year, there was a lot of belief that Drew Aller was going to take another step up and be their playmaker they could rely on. And I mean, maybe that's a whole nother video where we kind of dissect Aller. Maybe we wait further into the year and see what he looks like as this season goes on. But when it came down to it against Oregon in the overtime, he threw that pick. And he has and we have that very bad taste in our mouth for that CFP game where he also throws a pick and doesn't look very good. It ends a very good season in a very bad way in the third round of the playoffs. So he ends very good games or very good runs with just a nasty taste. And it's easy to forget all the good stuff that you just had and only remember the bad. But as far as Penn State's dedication to what they're doing, I think they are pushing the envelope. They are trying to get over the hump. And I don't know how much more time James Franklin has based on outside pressure and based on pressure by all these people that are giving money into the program. Because I guess it's good. It's hope, and then it's also kind of disgust because there's hope where we're putting a lot more money in NIL. We can afford to bring a lot more of these big time players to our school. But then also, as far as James Franklin's side of it, time will be running out to say, well, we're Penn State. We can't get all these kids like the Bama and like Ohio State and Oregon and whatever, because now the playing field is evened up for schools that have money. Penn State's one of them. And they're looking around saying, hey, we have everything we should need. Why are we not able to get over the hump yet? Now, NIL is still being figured out. Penn State's dedication to this has only been going for I don't know how long they would say, but noticeably from the public, I think it's been about a year or two that we've seen their money really take an uptick. So maybe there's a little bit more time for James to get that going for him. And obviously we're talking about week 5 of the season. We still got a whole lot left and Penn State still has plenty to play for. There's still plenty ahead of them. But I think the jumping the gun on a coach that is very, very good, that is winning you 10 plus ball games, averaging 10 wins a season at this point, or close to it, take away a COVID year. You can't just let go of that guy, because then the next question is, well, who do you hire? All the best coaches are locked down where they're at. They're not going anywhere.
Jimbo Fisher.
And then, so the next option would be, well, let's take a shot at an up-and-comer who's only winning. That's fair enough. But then you're gambling. You don't know what you're getting. And at the very least, Penn State knows that they have a coach who can coach well, who can manage a program well, and who is going to get them competitive. And sometimes football is very much like this. You have to have a lot of things go right to win every game. You have to have a lot of things go right to be able to get through a postseason. NFL teams talk about that all the time. Part of an NFL run is luck. And even, Hall of Fame head coaches admit that. I just listened to Bruce Arians have a conversation about, hey, our playoff run, like we were a good team, but we had to have a whole lot of good things happen to us, because you don't just get through this thing facing the teams that you face and get through dog walking everybody without things going the right way for you at the time. At some point, there's going to be a time you need the ball to bounce your way. And Penn State hasn't had that. Now, I will say this, they have been accustomed to getting blown out. You're talking about a 10-point spread on average against these top teams. That 200-plus point differential is substantial. But the last few years, that margin has narrowed a whole lot. We're talking about an overtime game against a top 5 team in the country that they just lost. Ball bounces one way, their way, and they win that game. So you lose big, then you lose small, then you win small, then you win big. And that can be applied to your whole program, and it also can be applied to top matchups. And that saying, I don't know where it first originated from, but I know it from Bobby Bowden. And he took Florida State from losing big to losing small to winning big. And I don't think a lot of people remember this because of where we are now, but there was a very similar conversation about Bobby Bowden.
Right.
He got Florida State going. And in the mid to late 80s, Florida State started to become a powerhouse. They started to get those guys in there that can compete with anybody else in the SEC or wherever else. But they couldn't win the big one. They kept freaking kicking wide left or wide right. And it just felt like he's never going to win it. He's never going to win it. He went years with top teams not winning anything. And then he finally got his first, and then he got another. And you're talking about a coach who is in a similar situation, who is starting to get the playing field to be even. And the question will be, will he have enough time to see that get over the hump or not? And I guess that will be to be determined. But I think we all align on the point, you can't fire this guy. You absolutely cannot fire this guy.
I've even struck another chord, which is he is not set up for success. We talk about them pumping money into this thing. 2020, 14th ranked class. 2021, 18th ranked class. 2022, 7. 2023, 14. 2024, 15. 2025, 13. 2026 is rated at the 16th class right now before signing day. You're not setting this guy up to be a top 12 team consistently coming in as a top 12 team. Overachieving.
True.
Yeah.
Now, could he do more? Could he do more? Certainly they could do more. I don't think they do too much on offense that is going to win them games, X's and O's wise. It's more Jimmy and Joe, quite literally. Hey, get our best player the ball and let them do things for us. Give them a Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech. I think their offense looks quite vividly different and could still probably do better with worse guys on their team. But I don't think that the fans or the athletics departments are setting him up for the success that they think they should have. So I think it's a little bit delusional. I don't know how you can have that take when you're not recruiting at a top level.
Expected a lot out of him. I mean, I think, look what you said, a guy like Buster Faulkner, he would be good there. And, and I would, that's what I would do. Cause I mean,
I've pay that guy. They're going to have to pay that guy some money.
But at the same time, I've also been, I've seen Georgia Tech. I've seen what they got. Players, facilities. I would have to believe that Penn State is probably way above what Georgia Tech is working with. Now, with that being said, the thing that I like about both Brent Key and Buster Faulkner is they are doing probably a lot more with a whole lot less than anybody anywhere.
So maybe Clark Lee.
And that it's just a matter of time before, Faulkner, jumps to something bigger. Yeah. And I think something like that could be interesting to see, I don't know. I mean, I think it could be neat to see. I think that could be a successful thing up there. But like you said, players make a difference. You can have the sharpest coaches in the world. At the end of the day, football is a long, nasty season. Even in the competitive, that's one of the things I think is like so that is so interesting about being down here in Georgia and seeing how the training situation is set up, which is pretty impressive. So much of what you're doing by about week, say 4, even in a high school football season, is just keeping players on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever the players that you've got on the field are more athletic, you're probably going to get beat. You're probably going to lose those games. It's probably going to look bad. Like Rev says, it's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouth. But it is what it is. I tell you who Penn State reminds me a lot of, and people who have watched us much know that I've got a strange fandom with Tennessee. They are a lot like Tennessee.
Yeah.
When Tennessee was at their peak in the late 90s, I think that's the best that that we're probably ever going to see them. At least
like 98.
Yeah, that's what they say. But they had a good run right there in the 90s. Even before Peyton Manning, even with Heath Shuler, from Bryson City, North Carolina. They had 2 good years with him. and then they had the run with Peyton. They had the national championship, and they still stayed relevant for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I will always go back to on that one, and I will say, is like the day. There are two things, or the thing that happened is Jim Donnan was the coach at the University of Georgia. And this was told to me, has been told to me multiple times by players from Atlanta, that Jim Donnan had no interest in recruiting inner city Atlanta. So when the Dogs decided that they were too good for inner city Atlanta, Phil Fulmer decided that he was not. And he went down there and he got him some talent, most famously Jamal Lewis.
Yep.
I think that that's the kind of thing that would have to happen, is that there's going to have to be a recruiting vacuum, that Penn State picks up a few more of the people that would be at Ohio State or Michigan than would normally be there. Boy, I don't see that
Good
happening
luck.
anymore.
Good
I don't
luck.
see that happening. I don't think that there's somebody that's just that makes a boneheaded move and says, you know what, we're not interested in recruiting Area X. I don't think so. And so I think that even with them compiling money, do you think Penn State's going to be able to compete with Michigan in the NIL? I don't. With
They
Ohio
just paid
State,
Bryce Underwood $4 million.
and I know, and so that, and I don't know, and so I mean, I guess in my way, I want to see Penn State succeed, because I feel like, even though I'm not in it and I don't know it well, I feel like that I know what Franklin's up against. And that he's a good coach.
Yep.
And the thing that I always think about, you could go crazy and say, by God, we're going to go get us somebody, who can win this championship and get us back where we need to be. And you cock back and get yourself, whatever the next version of Billy Napier is.
Yep.
That would be UAB's head coach.
And it is what it is, it is what it is. You go do that. I always remember one of the most pitiful statements I've ever heard from a college football fan was, once again, it was in relation to Tennessee. This was, near the end of Fulmer's time. And there was a family member of mine was talking about, he's like, man, we need to fire Fulmer. You just need to move on. Well, I have a cousin who went to graduate school at the University of Michigan, and her husband, who who she met there, he told him, and this was during the Rich Rod days, he said, sometimes it's better not to fire a coach. And that's the thing that I think. So I think that it's interesting to see what will happen with Penn State. I hope that they succeed, but at the same time, I do also think that they are in a tough situation.
In a world of constant coaching carousels and contracts being broken by both parties all over the place, and all these coaches seeking the next big thing for whatever it may be, you've seen a whole lot of coaches say, oh yeah, this is my dream school, and then 2 years later they leave. And I think there is something to be said about loyalty and a guy who wants to stay and succeed.
Yep.
And I don't think that you should be quick to release that. As someone who is a fan of a team who hasn't had a whole lot of head coaches and who is used to the loyalty, and in fact had a coach for 30 darn years, 40 years, when you lose that and you think you get a new guy to stay, and then that guy hops out and all of a sudden the carousel begins, that's a real scary place to be. And at Penn State, you are also one of those schools who is used to having a long tenured head coach. And I don't think that you want to necessarily put your foot in the lake of the coaching carousel, because it's real easy to get bit and pick the wrong one. And when you got a guy who's winning for you and doing what you need to do, who's loyal to you, you better hold on to that guy as long as you can, because there's not a whole lot of those left.
Yeah, I think there's very few solutions, and that would be find an offensive coordinator, and you're gonna have to find value recruits. You're gonna have to find players that Ohio State doesn't want that are good. You're going to have to find the players that Michigan don't want that are good and are good enough to help you. And then go out in the transfer portal and find the kids at FCS schools and smaller schools and people that will succeed at your program and can play up to the level of competition that you play. I think that's what they're going to have to do.
Well, I tell you, just on the Tennessee end of it, imagine if a place like Penn State could go out and find them somebody like what this Chris Brazel has been for Tennessee this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a video on him 2 years ago.
We did. We said he's going to be dang good. I mean, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that guy. Heck, dude, I mean, we also told him that Kalen DeVore is going to be the head coach of Alabama before he even broke the news. It's funny.
That is true. We're pretty good.
There's
Pretty
been some
good at this prediction thing.
There have been some interesting things that have happened here, but like I say, to me, Penn State is about as classy as it gets, in my opinion. And I know that they fell on some hard times with the end of the Paterno and the whole Sandusky mess and all that. But I mean, you look throughout Paterno's reign. I mean that was a classy place. And and I know it's easy to say, oh well, what about this? I get that. I get that. But at the same time, I mean, that's a great school. Academically, that's a great school. It's a place you want to be. Good, good football history. I'd like to see it work out for them.
Yeah, I agree. Penn State, I think you got to stick with your coach. Fans, y'all just need to chill out. Give them some money. Give them some more NIL money or shut your mouth. Pay up or shut up. For us here, stay locked in, everyone.